All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin this lesson by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High in the proper names in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakatash Ma'amaf. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, whom the world equally and willingly call God or Jehovah. By Hashem meaning in the name of. Yahushai meaning he who delivers, whom the world equally and willingly call JC today. I want to give a double honor to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who rule well. And another double honor to my elder as well, Ahar Wan bin Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. Salutations to the 144,000 hopeful elect, pushing the truth across the four winds, and to the one-third remnant believers on Yahweh Shem Shah, Shalom, Shalom. A quick lesson put together through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah, and I pray that it be edifying. So this lesson is going to be basically about the difference between those that have the understanding, the wisdom of Yahweh Shem Shah, and those that don't, and how the ones that has, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shem Shah, they magnify it, and a fool can't contain the wisdom of Yahweh Shem Shah, as the scripture stated, into a malicious soul, wisdom shall not enter. So I'm starting off in the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 21 and verse 11. It says, "He that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof, and the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom." So, right, when you keep the law, statute, commandment to the best of your ability, you're abiding in Yahweh Shem Shah's word, you get the understanding of life. You begin to understand, the circuit of the world. You begin to understand how everything basically comes back to the scriptures. And it says, "He that is not wise will not be taught, but there is a wisdom which multiplieth bitterness." So, right, those that are not wise aren't going to be taught. They're not going to understand when the Lord is basically chastening them. The scripture say, "Think it not strange, the fiery trial which is meant to try you." So they're not going to understand or even consider if the Lord is basically chastening them. That's why, they blame all their problems on other people. That's why every time a situation comes up, they never really look deep within themselves to consider if they are the cause of a problem. They immediately put the problem off on somebody else, and then they go on about their life, right? And then Yahweh Shem Shai basically continue to bring, turmoil on them, problems and adversity on them throughout their life because of their sins. If you're an Israelite, you're going to be judged for your sins. Some people, the Lord don't bring it upon them swiftly and speedily. Some people, the Lord will wait till the day of judgment to bring it all up on them at once. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to have a long-ass bill to pay in 1 hour. So next thing you know, Esau got them on a damn table, on some Hostel 3 type mess, right? So, right, but those that understand the will of Yahweh Shem Shah, they're going to be taught. It says, "He that is not wise will not be taught, but there is a wisdom which multiplieth bitterness." So, right, that mean you're going to learn the hard way, So you're going to learn the hard way. I used to wake up every day. I used to say that dumb mess out my mouth. I say, man, I ain't trying to hear none of that. I learned the hard way. The most prideful thing I could ever say. I want to learn. I learned the hard way. You're going to have to show me. No, nope. I'm going to continue to learn, based off of, what I see my brothers go through, my elders and apostles go through, what I see, my elders, apostles, my brothers in the Lions Den go through. You see, so I'm going to learn off their lesson. I'm going to learn off the lesson that Yahweh Shem Shah put upon me as well. And that's how you grow, by basically, wearing out the footsteps of the door of the wise, and understanding the will of Yahweh Shem Shah, understanding when you're being chastened, understanding when you're being taught. It says, verse 13, "The knowledge of a wise man shall abound like a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life." So, right, that you have Yahweh Shah running through you, It says, verse 14, "The inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth." So, right, and that's, 2/3 of our people. They can't hold the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shem Shah because their cup is already full. They don't come to the Lord empty. They try to come to the Lord with a full cup. And it gets to a point to where they can't hold this water. It says, and his counsel is like, it says, the inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth. So, right, he's going to be blind all the way to the end. He's not going to understand the perfection of Yahweh Shemashai. He's not going to understand this walk. He's not going to be able to obtain that which he seeketh for, in perfection, because he didn't put the Lord first. It says, verse 15, if a skillful man hear a wise word, he will commend it and add unto it. But as soon as one of no understanding heareth it, it displeaseth him, and he casteth it behind his back. So, right. So when they hear the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shemashai, they cast it away. It says he would cast it off, ere it be long. They only going to be in the truth for a certain amount of time, and then time going to come to where they're going to fall out. They're going to go back into the world. Being in the truth is too hard for them. Serving the Lord is too hard for them. Taking on Yahweh Shemashai's yoke is too hard for them. So they take on the yoke of the world, which is 10 times heavier. But the yoke of the world, you're able to do whatever you want to do. It appeases the flesh. You see what I'm saying? So by it appeasing the flesh, our people, they think that's the way, right? It says, so right, verse 16, the talking of a fool is like the burden in the way, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise. They inquire at the mouth of the wise man in the congregation, and they shall ponder his words in their heart. As is a house that is destroyed, so is wisdom to a fool, and the knowledge of the unwise is as talk without sense. So they don't make no sense when they talk, So they hear thy words, but they will do them not. They ponder them in their heart, but they ain't gonna do them. But you got the word, the wise, they ponder the words, Lord's in their heart. They consider it, and they take that first step. Then they continue to walk, all the days of their life. I mean, when I first joined the camp, my elder, he told me, he was like, man, I want to see, he said, I want to see the hair on your beard turn gray one day, meaning you still here, but Lord willing, we don't be here, which he said that as well. But it's like, if we have to, I want to see you be in this truth for a long time. You see what I'm saying? So that's a daily goal. Daily goal is waking up with Yahweh Shemashai on your mind. As soon as you wake up with the word on your mind, you already lost. You're not waking up with Yahweh Shemashai on your mind, going to sleep with Yahweh Shemashai on your mind. You're not striving for the mastery to finish this race. So, right, it says, as is a house that is destroyed, so is wisdom to a fool, and the knowledge of the unwise is as talk without sense. Doctrine unto fools is as fetters of the feet, and like manacles on the right hand. So this doctrine of Yahweh Shemashai, it basically is like a prison unto a fool. They can't endure it because they thinking about all the fun that they had in the world. The party and the bullshit, and cup hella fucking empty. You see what I'm saying? But it feels good because they're able to do whatever they want to do. They can worship whatever holiday, whatever false folly they want to. So they cast it off ere it be long. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 and verse 22. It says, for wisdom is according to her name, and she is not manifest unto many. All right, the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of Yahweh Shemashai is only manifest unto the wise. Those that was given the name of Yahweh through Yahweh Shai. It says, give ear, my son, receive my advice, and refuse not my counsel, and put thy feet into her fetters, and thy neck into her chains. All right, it says, take my yoke, for my yoke is easy. So we understand that everything that Yahweh Shemashai is requiring of us is not hard. It's easy. It's not hard to have fun and righteousness. It's not hard to bear the indignation, the righteous anger of Yahweh Shemashai when it comes. It's not hard to go through the adversity that Yahweh Shemashai put on us, because he comforts us. He strengthens us to be able to go through it. All right. It says, verse 25, bow down thy shoulder and bear her, and be not grieved with her bonds. So, right. And that's just what it is, man. So the Lord will kind of trim off the fat, and everything that's not for you, he'll take it away from you. And everything that's for you, he's going to cause it to increase. He's going to cause it to gravitate towards you more. All right. It says, verse 26, come unto her with thy whole heart, and keep her ways with all thy power. Search and seek, and she shall be made known unto thee. And when thou hast got hold of her, let her not go. So we're not gonna. So once we came into this truth, we understood. We went into that field, Matthew chapter 13. found a piece of gold, sold all that we had to obtain that field. You know what I'm saying? So it says, search and seek, and she shall be made known unto thee. And when thou hast got hold of her, let her not go. So that's the hopeful elect. They're not going to let it go. They're going to let the world go, and everything that's holding them back from getting closer to the Lord, they're going to let that go. But we're going to gravitate towards the Lord even more. Verse 28, for at the last thou shalt find her rest, and that shall be turned to thy joy. So, right, we're going to see a turn of investment. We're going to see a turn of investment. It's beautiful. It's beautiful when you basically graduate in your trading journey, right? Speaking as a trader, right? And you no longer have to look at charts for 5 hours. You can wake up, you can look at your chart for about 2 hours, right? Throw it on a 4-hour chart. You see what I'm saying? Understanding that it's going to take 16 hours for you to do what you got to do. And then you sit right there, you just turn 2 pennies I'm going to say you just turned 7 pennies into $1,900. And it took you X amount of hours. You didn't even have to go back to your chart. You just know what was going to go based off of your trading psychology, based off of your technical analysis. You see what I'm saying? Based off the wisdom, knowledge of, and understanding that Yahweh Shem Shai gave you in his life, you know it's going to do what it's going to do. So you come back, sometimes it might be come back 3 days from now. All right, cool. Ooh. It's just one of them weeks. The water Yahweh Shem Shai. You see what I'm saying? So you see a turn of investment when you basically stay in this truth, and then now Jacob's trouble come. Everybody else around you get it done in the worst ways. The Lord turning them every which way but loose. But you just free. Yahweh Shem Shai got you with some spiritual power, and you ain't even got the mindset to go out there and with your spiritual power and do whatever. The Lord gave you power over the earth. So you done dug into the earth a good couple hundred meters, right? And you done made a whole fortress under there. Then you cause a stream of water to flow through your fortress. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai gave you all this wisdom, all this power to be able to do this. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to see a turn of investment for serving Yahweh Shem Shai. Right? It says, for at the last thou shalt find her rest, and thou shalt be turned to thy joy, ultimately the kingdom. Then shall her fetters be a strong defense for thee, and her chains as a robe of glory, right? And then ultimately Yahweh Shai go put a crown on your head. So it's a win-win situation. This is a win-win situation. You come into the truth, you lose everything that's not for you. Yahweh Shem Shai increase your wisdom, knowledge, understanding. He give you everything that he wants you to have. You see what I'm saying? And then he protect that, and then walk you straight through that fire and that water to get through the kingdom. Beautiful. A win-win situation. All right. It says, verse 30, for there is a golden ornament upon her, and her bands are a purple lace. And it says, verse 31, thou shalt put her on as a robe of honor, and shalt put her about thee as a crown of joy. Right. Being exalted in the kingdom. Knowing, our people knowing that we stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught. And if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. And if thou bow down thy ear, thou shalt be wise. So, right, you got to come in a humble and a meek stead. And this truth in itself is a humbling experience because you realize yourself. The Lord will put a mirror in front of you. You realize all the ugly parts about yourself. And then you realize the source of the problem or where it's coming from, whether it be childhood trauma, people bring you down, right? And you able to destroy that old version of yourself and become a new man. You see what I'm saying? A stronger version of yourself, whom the Lord already knew that you was going to reach that point. You just had to go through that right amount of adversity. You see what I'm saying? So then it makes you want to get stronger. How do you get stronger? That fire, that adversity. You see what I'm saying? So, right. It says, verse 33 again, if thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. And if thou bow down thy ear, thou shalt be wise. Stand in a multitude of elders and cleave unto him that is wise. Be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. So, right. Once Yahweh Shem Shai drop that oil in your cup, he might drop that oil in your cup by way of listening to the elders and apostles. You know what I'm saying? Your bishops. So once that oil in your cup, make sure it ain't leaking. A lot of people out here, they oil be leaking. Be having a little bit of water mixed in it. You see what I'm saying? So they can't hold no wisdom, knowledge, understanding. They go and be, Sakari, Genesis. They get that bag, they get that money. You see what I'm saying? Get the running off with, They think they're running off on a plug. They think they're running off on the Lord. Now it's TGC Ministries. You see what I'm saying? So right, it says, "Be willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee. If thou seest a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him, and let not thy foot wear the steps, of his door." So right, and that's why we wake up every day. All right, let me see if my elder drop a lesson. Let me see if Bishop drop a lesson. Let me see who dropped a lesson. Because that lesson most likely is going to help me with what I'm dealing with right now. All right. I think it was the brother Ricard. It was either earlier this week. What the day is? Probably mid last week. Dropped the lesson that I needed about emotion at the right time. He said, "This too shall pass." Right? It says, verse 37, "Let thy mind be upon the ordinance of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart, and give thee wisdom at thy own desire." So right. So that wisdom is going to take you on a journey. If you watch anime and you see the most powerful anime characters, you don't see them throughout the anime. They pop up at that right moment. And that's going to be us. The Lord separating us just like he did Abraham. And then you're going to come back a wiser, a stronger version of yourself. 2/3 of our people, they can never obtain it. So what we do, we go into Clark Kent mode when it comes to them, because they can't hold it anyways. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 6. "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rent you." So right, there's no reason to tell them anything, because they mind, their conscience is seared with a hot iron, and they stuck in their ways. They stiff-necked. So we're not going to tell you anything, because you're a fool, as it was stated in Sirach chapter 21. But the wise, on the other hand, we watching, right? We watching, and this is what we looking for. This is what we found through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. This is Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 20. "And so the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the waters of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner any more, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers." So we see our teachers, those who have the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of Yahweh Shem Shai, how they light shine, how the Lord magnify them, how they're able to teach and increase you. It says, "And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left." So right. So we understand, once we heard this word, we understood, we saw all that we had for it. And we followed Yahweh Shem Shai in true sincerity. So right. So we understand our position in this ministry, and we understand that we enter into other man's labors. So it's a certain level of respect for those that are above you. Even if he don't talk much, we understand the order of Yahweh Shem Shai. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and verse 1. "But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned man, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables." So right, we understand these scriptures. We understand that Yahweh Shem Shai had his hands on our elders and our apostles to be able to give us his word. So now we right there with them when they're doing it. Revelation chapter 17. So right, it says, verse 14, "He shall serve among great men and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he have tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer, and make supplications for his sins. When the great Lord will, He shall be filled with the spirit of understanding, and shall pour out wise sentences, and give thanks unto the Lord in prayer. He shall direct his counsel in knowledge, and in his secrets shall he meditate. All right. And that's just what it is, man. We're going to continually to increase in the Lord, no matter what you lose. If you lose it, you know that Yahweh Shem Shai is going to basically comfort you as his son. And that's what we got to understand. So when people leave you or try to, go towards the world, man, we understand that, all right, well, I can just get closer to the Lord. He trimmed the fat. I can be stronger. I could be smarter. I could be wiser. You see what I'm saying? I'm one step closer to being that spiritually intelligent, whatever the Lord making me to be, that humble, whatever Yahweh Shem Shai is turning me into, one step closer to being that, man. So I encourage, all brothers out there to continue to grow, to continue to stay in his word, and continue to be open-minded to the will of Yahweh Shem Shai. I pray this lesson to edify. Shalom, on to the next.